Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. I have a friend of mine, Jeff from A2X, which is a great solution these days when you're in the e-commerce world and you're needing to bring all your data in from various selling channels, whether it's Shopify or Amazon, into your QuickBooks. And so I think this is something that a lot of people will get great information from because e-commerce is growing. There's a lot of complexities when it comes to e-commerce accounting and making sure that everything's correct. So I'm so excited to have you here today, Jeff. I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to our chat.
Yeah. So if you can share a little bit, just what is A2X? How did the company get started and kind of where it is today?
Awesome. I mean, A2X at the highest of levels is e-commerce accounting automation software. So to kind of your point earlier on, it brings data from Amazon, Shopify, eBay, Etsy, Walmart, PayPal, organizes them, and then posts it to QuickBooks or Xero or NetSuite for reconciliation. The idea here is like usually within your accounting software, you'll see a deposit from those sales channels. So you'll see like a Shopify deposit or an Amazon deposit. Those deposits are made up of significantly more than just sales, right? Like those are your gross sales minus your fees, your refunds, your gift cards, your taxes, just so much rich, important data that you need to understand. A2X breaks all of that out for you and posts a summary that matches to that deposit. So all you have to do is click reconcile. Then at the end of the month, you have like a very beautiful, detailed, broken out P&L. Helps with compliance, helps with financial visibility, helps you make informed decisions on how to optimize your channel performance, how to optimize your SKUs, your pricing, so on and so forth. So that's A2X in a nutshell. And Chrissy, I know that you wanted me to talk about how A2X came to be.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, I mean, the cool thing about A2X is, and what I love about the story is that it was founded in 2014 by e-commerce sellers. So the founding team were actually some of the largest Amazon sellers in New Zealand at the time. And they were having a really hard time reconciling their Amazon settlements in Xero. So they decided to build their own solution to solve their own problem. And then they brought that solution to market and found that not only a ton of other sellers started using it, but also tons of accountants and bookkeepers that are servicing e-commerce businesses. In fact, I would say that A2X is probably the most trusted solution for the top e-commerce accountants and bookkeepers in the world today. We have over 1,500 accountants and bookkeepers using us across their clients. We have like a really robust partner program. We even do an annual event where we bring them together at Camp A2X once a year, which is a ton of fun. So yeah, so they founded the company. It's now grown. We are a globally distributed remote company. We have tons of presence in North America, in the United Kingdom, in Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. And we service sellers across pretty much every English-speaking market in the world. As well. We also service sellers in non-English speaking markets, but the product itself is in English. So that's why we say the English speaking market, because we're well suited to support folks with our support documentation and our support team, so on and so forth within those markets as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember finding your guys' software. I think it was like 7 years ago or whatnot. I had gotten my first e-commerce client and saw, how everything was going to work through a Shopify channel and thought there has to be an easier way than making all these journal entries all the time, because I think that's what's tricky with e-commerce accounting is there is complexity with it. There's a lot of moving parts. There's things that you have to have clearing accounts because of timing differences of, hey, Shopify says you sold product on the 30th, but you're not going to get paid until the 3rd of the next month. And so you got to hold that. And if you don't know that, then things the timing issues don't get recorded properly. And so I think having solutions like this out there really helps give you more accurate accounting.
And I'll just add to that, like, not only are there timing differences, but Shopify and Amazon and all these sales channels, will add or remove transactions on a regular basis that have new definition, will introduce new fees. We'll introduce new policies like Amazon's DD+7 policy recently, which creates a lot of complexity in the accounting process. And I think that's actually where A2X really shines. We call it the accuracy loop. We believe that we're the most accurate solution out in the market today for a few reasons. One is we process by far the most transactions, but also because we work with the top e-commerce accountants and bookkeepers in the world, because we are deep partners with Amazon and Shopify, we get notified of a lot of these changes as they're happening. And if we don't get notified, guess who's going to notify us? Our accountants and bookkeepers that are utilizing the solution. And we bake that back into the product, make sure to adjust. So from an accuracy perspective, despite all these changes, despite all this complexity, I guess kind of like the most simple way to think about it is like we're really on top of it so that you don't have to be, right?
Yeah, and I like that part of it, and especially when it comes down to they love to throw new things out. And I think that's what's kind of nice with having a solution like yours is because you have to map everything to a general ledger account. You get a flag to say, hey, this transaction can't go through because it doesn't know where to go. And that kind of helps you be, oh, okay, I guess they introduced something new and I was not made aware of that yet.
Yeah, and what's really cool too, so like imagine you're new to A2X on the mapping side. We do provide you with assisted mapping, which effectively gives you recommendations on where you should map each of your transactions to the appropriate account in your chart of accounts. But also the other cool thing is like if you're an accountant or bookkeeper or you're an in-house finance team for a large seller and you want to kind of define those on your own mappings, you can customize that to fit your needs. And again, like this ideal adjustment. Like the reality is you will have to log into A2X sometimes because these sales channels are constantly changing their different transactions, introducing new fees, as I mentioned. But the goal is you don't really have to do it that much. Like if A2X is working for you, it's one of those solutions that runs in the background, does it for you, and you're getting all this rich, accurate data on the other end for compliance and visibility, which is nice.
It is. And I think one plus too is you guys offer, hey, if you need to hop on a phone call and talk through the mapping when you're doing your onboarding, you're not just left to, hey, go to this knowledge base sheet and good luck with mapping it out. I think that's something that's very positive because there are certain companies that are set up a little bit more complex than just like an out of the box mapping. They may want multitude of different clearing accounts where others are fine with it. Hey, it all just sits in one. We got this.
100%. I mean, one of our core tenets is customer support at A2X. We have an unbelievable customer support team. It's actually the largest team within our organization. It's global. It's comprised of folks that are either experienced in e-commerce or accounting or e-commerce accounting. In fact, like many members of our UK team are, members of the Bookkeeping Association in the region, have won awards. Like I would say that not only do we work with the top e-commerce accountants and bookkeepers in the world, many of which actually work at A2X on our support team. We offer 24/7 global chat support. And we also do video calls. We do onboarding. Like we do everything in our power to ensure that you are getting the accurate data that you need to run a successful e-commerce business, or if you're an accountant or bookkeeper supporting an e-commerce business so that you can effectively support your clients. So to your point, and I'm glad that you brought it up, support is a massive pillar at A2X. It's always been. We have almost more than 3,000 five-star reviews across every platform. And I would argue that probably 95% of them mention our support team. We stand behind our product. We have a great product, but really to your point, support is really important. And that's not something that's necessarily consistent across multiple organizations.
No, it's not, especially in the accounting industry. A lot of times we get pushed to the chat and it goes through, multiple channels of somebody sending it up higher up the chain because they don't know accounting or whatnot. And I think it's refreshing to work with companies that have that knowledge base already built in. So you can say, hey, you know what, this wasn't mapping properly. I'm getting this number, it's going the wrong direction. And to have somebody on the other side, oh yeah, it should be, this or that. I think it's nice to have.
Well, we understand the importance of closing the books in a timely manner, right? And that's why I think we try to be so responsive and kind of real time with our support. The reality of the situation is, like, if you're an accountant or bookkeeper, or even an in-house finance team, like, there are expectations in terms of how quickly you can provide the numbers, right? Because how quickly you can provide the numbers is really about giving the team visibility so that they can take action on it appropriately and get value from the information that's being provided to them. So we really recognize that, which is why, like, we're so focused on providing as real-time support as possible, in addition to that level of accuracy that accountants and bookkeepers and finance teams require. Or, like, a lot of the people that use A2X as well are business owners who kind of like to nerd out in the numbers as well. So they also have their own expectations in terms of how quickly they want the numbers. So we realize that that's really important, and it influences how we approach supporting our customers.
Yeah. No, I think it's always important to have. I always push, like, you want to make sure you have good customer support no matter what solution you're using, because you're going to need it one day.
Especially on the accounting side, honestly.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's very important. So let's talk about the size of companies that you guys work with. It's pretty much, hey, startup, I sell 2 products a day versus I sell 2 products every second of the day and are selling thousands of products. Can you speak to how does that handle the growth and scalability? Because that's a lot of thing with small business owners is, okay, if I come in and I start implementing a tool and a solution to handle these things, how long before I outgrow it?
Yeah, so it's very unlikely that you're going to outgrow A2X, because A2X is built to scale. I would say that one of our core differentiators is that we thrive in multi-channel, large order volume complexity, multi-country, right? Like, the more complexity you could throw at A2X, the more value you are getting out of A2X. You and I talked about this in kind of one of our pre-calls, but there's kind of a journey, right? Like, early on, you're going to do manual journals, and then as you, like, start to scale in the dozens to potentially, like, low hundred of orders, you might choose to use some of the free solutions that are out there, like the QuickBooks connector as an example. But the second that you start to grow beyond that, you need a solution that's purpose built for this type of use case, and really that's where A2X comes in. So I'd say, if you want, like, an average rule of thumb, I think if you're doing about, like, 100,000 or more in revenue, where you're really starting to have to think about your taxes, right? Like, it's no longer this, like, little side project. It's now growing into something that needs kind of that operational and that financial maturity. That's where A2X comes in at the low end. And then at the high end, we have sellers with us that are doing hundreds of millions of dollars in annual revenue. So we even recently built an integration with NetSuite. I guess not necessarily recently. It was like about a year ago, for even people that were kind of moving on from Xero and QuickBooks. Really, because that's really, like, they would come to us. They would move to NetSuite and they would say, "Hey, I still want A2X." So the market was kind of pulling us in that direction, because A2X, again, like I said, does a really good job of working with you as you scale and managing that complexity. So yeah, there's really not a lot of limits at the top end in terms of where A2X can support you on the accounting side.
Which is awesome, because you think about all the connectors when you're starting out. And yeah, there's, like we've talked about before, there's always free, but you pay a price for free, whether that's in time, trying to understand how it works, or calling support because something's not working. There gets to be a point where free just doesn't make sense, because it's a time suck. And a lot of times it doesn't give you all of the data breakout that you need. To your point, really understanding what the tax replications are of each sale so that you can pay your sales tax on a monthly, quarterly basis or whatnot, but having some of those extra tools in there.
Yeah, I mean, so, like, when we think about A2X, to your point about, like, the breakout of the data, those requirements increase depending on how you are capitalized. So if you are working with investors, or if you are working with lenders, or if you want to set your business up for potential future M&A, like having that detailed visibility into your financials, detailed breakdown of what's happening at an individual channel level, that's where you need a solution like A2X, right? If you're bootstrapped and you're small and you're planning to keep it small, you could do it manually. You could use a free solution. But the second that this turns into kind of like a real business, and by like they're all real businesses, right? But like what I mean by that is more so like where there are expectations from external parties, not just internal parties, then you're going to need to kind of evolve to a solution like A2X, I would say.
Yeah.
Probably
And
much more.
you do. And even on the simple part of being able to break out refunds and discounts and looking at, all right, what percentage of my income each month is going to discounts? And then you realize, oh, I'm probably discounting things too much. I'm not making what I thought I was. And that you start digging into those, more details of what's going on. And you can't do that a lot of times with the free connectors, or even if you're just doing a simple manual journal entry at the end of each month, you need to be able to see that more by transaction.
100%. Like you want to understand what your loss making SKUs are. You want to understand what your most profitable SKUs are. You want to understand that detail so that you can start to work on pricing strategy to potentially increase your margins. Like the reality with e-commerce is that although it is growing, right? Like e-commerce as a percentage of retail across all markets is growing. If I were to ask a room of 100 people if they thought we were going to be buying more products or less products online over the course of the next 5 years, I guarantee you that every single person in that room would be saying more, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, my parents, grandparents, like everyone is moving to online. The challenge with e-commerce, though, is that in this current environment, it is facing some headwinds. Those headwinds are tariffs. Those headwinds are rising inflation, rising cost of goods, supply chain challenges, so on and so forth, which to me means that financial visibility is even more critically important, because as your margins are getting squeezed, you need to really have that, detailed visibility into what's going on so that you can work and strategize to increase those margins, right?
Right.
You do that with the financial visibility yourself. You can work with an accounting expert like yourself, Christy, to help kind of provide that visibility. But yeah, in a world where e-commerce is growing but getting harder, this type of stuff becomes that much more important in our opinion.
Yeah. Well, and so many people are selling across different platforms too.
Well,
And you
yeah.
got the complexity of, oh, I sell on Amazon, I sell on Shopify. And then you're in some of the big box where you're helping with Walmart and Etsy, things like that. And it's being able to really track and look from a holistic point of view too, of how am I doing overall, but then also at the channel level.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, I mean, the reality of the situation is like when you talk to most e-commerce businesses, especially starting out, and what others have learned is like there's usually only a few channels that are driving most of your revenue. But early on, you're like, I'm going to go across every single channel. I'm going to provide every payment option available on kind of my checkout page, right? And then you start to realize that, that approach, the trying to be everywhere to everyone at all times, comes with additional costs, comes with additional operational complexity. So having that visibility to understand where you should focus your time and efforts and how you should focus your time and efforts, I think is like really important and helps businesses mature and, helps them run more efficiently and more successfully. Like a really good example is like, I think there was a meme about a checkout page, right? Where it was, I think there were like 10 different checkout options. It got to the point of overwhelm, right? Sometimes, less is more, but the only way that you're going to know that is that you actually have the data to show you what's performing and what's not performing.
Oh yeah. And you have to learn that with the payment channels, because you will find out, hey, I have PayPal on here, but I notice I only get on average 5 people that pay with it a month. All right, I'm going to drop that one and start narrowing it down. And I think that happens. I've seen that with my own clients. I've actually seen it reverse too. If they start out one payment gateway and have realized nobody's using this one, okay, let me drop it and try a different one.
Well, I mean, think about the fees associated with that gateway. Think about the accounting costs, right? Of trying to reconcile those gateways. Sometimes, especially if you have kind of like a product that's a little bit lower on the expense side, it might not be economically worth it to offer that gateway. You might be spending more to operationally maintain it than it's bringing you back in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and those are all things like you learn as you go. That's just part of
yeah.
the process. Yeah. It's interesting how it all pans out. And I would say with your solution, I know you guys have really grown. I remember when I first started with you, you were like the go-to for like the Amazon side of things and all of that. I have a handful of clients that started out that way. What payment channels, if you can share that you're in today, and then what you're looking to move to in the future of adding?
Yeah, so I would say Amazon and Shopify are our two largest channels. In fact, Shopify is outpacing our Amazon connections. And we have tons of people using A2X, like over 13,000. And I think we have a really good product for Shopify because Shopify is quite complex, quite hard to reconcile. I think we've done some really good things on Shopify over the last 2 to 3 years. We also support Walmart, eBay, Etsy, as well as PayPal as a payment gateway. But again, top two, Amazon, Shopify. In fact, I'd even say Shopify, Amazon if we're going to order it, and then eBay, Walmart, Etsy, and PayPal.
Oh yeah. Don't forget that one.
One channel that we are really focusing on that we are going or planning to be launching over the next few months within 2026 is TikTok. So as I'm sure, like TikTok, for a few reasons, we've waited. One reason has been that the API wasn't in a position for us to be able to deliver an integration that would meet our accuracy standards. But they've since made a lot of changes that makes this a lot easier. So we are now kind of in that investment mode. The other thing with TikTok is, we sometimes forget that the current administration in the United States were thinking about getting rid of it in totality.
Right. You're like, is it staying? Is it going? I don't know. And then you don't want to invest money in something and it's out the door.
Yeah. So like the API had its challenges. And then also there was kind of like a lot of FUD as it relates to the channel as a whole. But now that there's a little bit more stability in terms of understanding where TikTok is going to be, understanding the API a little bit better, and knowing that it's a channel that a lot of people ask for, it's one of our top areas of focus. The thing with A2X, though, like for us, even with PayPal, it took us a while to deliver PayPal. And the reason why is we have a very high accuracy standard. Like we want our position in the market to continue to be the most accurate solution. So as a result, we cannot deliver a product that we don't believe meets that accuracy standard. So that's why we've been waiting a little bit on TikTok, but it is coming because we think that we can actually get it to where we need it to be so that, our accounting partners like you, Chrissy, can not have to worry about the numbers.
Right. Yeah.
Which is great because that's our goal. Our goal is effectively to spit out numbers that people can trust and they can spend time on interpreting them rather than debating on if they're accurate or not.
Right.
And we see that time and time again, and we want to be in the world of trust. We don't want to be like, there's obviously a question of materiality, like how good is good enough. Okay, well, we want to pass that question of materiality, and then we want to get into the accuracy layer. And then the accuracy layer, again, like that's especially valuable if you're capitalized through lending and through third-party investments, or you're trying to set yourself up for M&A. So those are the channels that we are going to be working on, and why.
Yeah, and that'll be good because tons of people are moving to TikTok and selling on there. And right now kind of the way is people are selling through the Shopify, and it captures it and can come into your solution, and you can kind of just map things out a little bit differently that way. But it'll be nice once you have the actual API going in.
Yeah, like you make a really great point. If you're using TikTok and Shopify today, you can use A2X, and we'll be able to help you manage the accounting for that. But to your point, like we are going to have a more specific direct integration with TikTok so that we can be reconciling from there.
Yeah, which would be awesome to get that done. And I think the other thing that you guys have introduced, I can't remember if it was the beginning of this year that it came out or last year, of being able to upload the statements for the reconciliation. So if I upload it like an Amazon statement, A2X can help with that monthly reconciliation.
Yeah, we call those our reconciliation reports, which is effectively what it does is it allows you to verify the data between your sales channel. So whether Amazon or Shopify, A2X, and QuickBooks or Xero. And then if there are any discrepancies, it allows you to kind of drill in and manage those discrepancies accordingly. Again, another feature in service to helping us kind of surpass that accuracy bar that we currently have for ourselves. And the reason we have that accuracy bar, and I love that you brought this up because clearly you are one of those accounting experts, is we do work with the top accounting and bookkeeping experts who specialize in e-commerce in the world. And like, they love to nerd out on this stuff as much as we do. So that type of tooling is really beneficial for that audience because it can help them kind of maintain our collective accuracy bar and then have a lot of trust in the information and the data that's being provided.
And it helps save a lot of time too, which is really convenient these days because they're like, again, there's a lot that goes into e-commerce accounting and it's very timely to, get all the books closed out on a monthly basis on time. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, like what we talked about earlier, right? Like there are a lot of expectations around timing. So
yes,
like one of our goals in addition to accuracy is to chip away at time to close and make that shorter and shorter and shorter, right? There are trade-offs that you need to make, right? Like real time, you're going to make some trade-offs on accuracy, you're going to make some trade-offs on timing. So what we try to do is kind of like live in the middle and try to provide the most accurate, timely solution as possible so that, closing the books within 7 months, 7 days at the end of the month is not kind of still challenging, especially when you're really large, but, not impossible, right? And that's kind of what we're working towards is working towards closing the books at the end of the month as quickly and as accurately as possible.
Yeah. And then kind of shifting gears a little bit too is it's pretty easy to integrate and get it set up. I know with clients, when I've set them up, you just go to integrations, they go buy your solution, it gets integrated. Whether most people stateside use QuickBooks versus I know in Canada where you are, there's a lot of Xero that's in there, and then
UK
is a lot of Xero, Australia, all of that, just because of the complex tax structures that QuickBooks just doesn't handle. And they were made specifically for that versus QuickBooks. But I think it's so easy to even get that integration going, which is nice because you can do it, within an hour. Essentially, if you really understand how the mappings work, it's connect, you go and you're ready to start syncing data over.
That's exactly right. And then we also kind of have different types of functionality that allow you to either like totally trust the system or trust and verify the system. So like once the integration is going, you can choose to have it auto post into QuickBooks or Xero so that all you really have to go do is click that reconcile button. Or if you want, you can add kind of like a layer where you go and you manually post it from in the QuickBooks or Xero because you want to review the data yourself. Really depends on your level of comfort. What we actually see happen quite a bit is people who are new to A2X, they'll manually post for like the first 2 times, and then they'll see, oh, the data is actually accurate. And then they put it up posting and they go from there. So yeah, depending on what your level of comfortability is, depending on like we allow you to trust but verify or just totally trust. And again, to your point, pretty quick and easy to set up. And then if you do have any questions, we have an incredible support team that's like ready and able to help you on that journey. In fact, and this is a fun fact that we don't really advertise so much, but we obviously should now that I'm thinking about it. But everyone that subscribes to A2X gets free onboarding.
Yeah.
So you could choose to do it yourself if you want, or you could do it with us on a video call. Totally up to you. And that is available to everyone. And then if you are an accountant or bookkeeper, we do have additional services available like priority support, more robust onboarding, so on and so forth through our partner program. But yeah, with the objective of helping make this easy for everyone, the software itself makes it easy to get started. But if you want a human to kind of walk you through the process, we have that as an option available as well for free.
for free, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fun. There's a couple questions that have come through that I think would be just really good that we can kind of speak to on here. And one of them does kind of come down to the mapping, and that's always a big thing that pops up. So this one saying, when mapping accounts and taxes and QuickBooks with A2X, what are the common mistakes businesses make and how can they avoid them other than calling you first to get the mapping done?
That's a really good question. I mean, so this question used to be a lot more relevant when we didn't have assisted setup, but now that we do have assisted setup, which is effectively, think of it as a questionnaire when you're getting started on A2X that asks you questions about, you know, the characteristics of your business, and then based on those characteristics, we provide best practice mappings that we've leveraged from accountants and bookkeepers that we work with through the partner program. So I think there aren't, from a mappings perspective, there aren't as many frequent issues that we see exist. The only thing that we see exist is like, if you are not an accountant or bookkeeper and you are a business owner doing this yourself, and let's say you don't do the onboarding with A2X, it is our recommendation that you should at least have like somebody from A2X or your accountant or bookkeeper review the information once you put it together. That's actually, you know what, I take it back. That's the one mistake that we see people make. Folks who don't have accounting or bookkeeping experience and are doing their best to get it set up themselves, you can get 90% of the way there, but you don't know what you don't know. And having a second set of eyes, I think, is always quite beneficial. So whether that's through the A2X onboarding or whether that's through your accountant or bookkeeper, would recommend have somebody do a quick review rather than do a review like 6 months in as you've been using the software.
Yeah, and then you have the clearing counts aren't working, there's large balances and things aren't flowing properly. Yeah, I would agree because that happens.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, spending more time on the setup it helps you save a lot of time down the line.
Yeah. And then another one that this kind of correlates to this one too is, you know, who benefits most? Is it bookkeepers, accountants, or business owners? I would say it's pretty much everybody that uses the solution. It helps from different perspectives of, you know, business owner gets more detail. Accountants can get the books closed sooner, gives them more accurate data.
100%. And, you know, because I will say this, we fundamentally believe that every e-commerce business should be connected to an accountant or bookkeeper in one way or another, whether working with a practice like yours who specializes in this area, or if they're large enough to have kind of in-house team members focused on the accounting and bookkeeping. It is like, there are levels to it. Obviously, when you're getting started, you want to do as much yourself as possible. But I would say that this is one of those areas as you grow that I would look to secure some expertise, because that financial visibility, that financial accuracy, again, not only does it help on compliance and tax, but it gives you financial visibility to take your business to the next level, to make appropriate decisions about your pricing, about your channel strategy, about your products, so on and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, so from who benefits, I love that the way that you framed it, like accountants and bookkeepers on doing the actual work and providing the financials, and obviously the business owners who are getting access to that financial visibility.
Yeah. And then one other one in here, this is a good one too. When e-commerce volume spikes during a peak season, how do you maintain clarity and reconciliation reporting while everything gets noisier?
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of A2X, right? So the way that we work is that we reconcile to the payout and provide summaries rather than syncing a bunch of individual orders into your accounting software and making it completely unruly. So whether you have like 10,000 orders or 1,000 orders, it doesn't really matter, because what A2X is doing is creating a summary entry that then matches to the payout in the bank feed, so that your QuickBooks instance or your Xero instance is still super clean, right? And not overloaded. And then you still get that kind of detailed breakdown on your of the information that is available. So that's one of the benefits. And actually one of the reasons why people like working with A2X And that's also one of the reasons why we can manage, as I mentioned earlier, tremendous like amounts of order volume, because we're summarizing that data.
Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise QuickBooks would probably hate you afterwards because they're like, there's so much data in this cloud space. You need to buy more space here, even though that's not an option. But yeah.
And it's not to say that you can't drill in. Like you and I just
Yeah, it's
talked about
there.
the reconciliation report, and you can still drill into A2X, but in terms of kind of like the functional use within QuickBooks or Xero, that's where the summaries kind of take shape. Uh,
Hmm.
and that's where it's really beneficial as you're scaling in order volume.
Yeah, I think that. And then I like this one here too is what excites you most about where the accounting technology is headed?
So this is okay. I really like this question. We talked about it a lot at Camp A2X, and like there's this question of artificial intelligence, right? And its ability to come in and automate everything, right? And a world where software doesn't necessarily exist, or software in its current instance, right?
Hmm.
Software as a service or evolves, or it is disrupted. But I think in the context of e-commerce accounting, I think there are two specific lanes that we have to look at. There's deterministic workflows, right? Which is where A2X like really lives in. It's this idea that like, okay, here's all this data that I'm getting from my sales channel. I need to deterministically group these transactions in the appropriate account. And that needs to happen every single month, right? And I don't want any type of like probabilistic or generative
Hmm.
changes over time. I need it to be the same. I need it to be consistent. And that's where A2X thrives and will continue to thrive. But what's interesting is that AI, the future of the tech, as you have mentioned,
Yep.
if we can layer that on top of the deterministic workflows to manage, things that might be a little bit more probabilistic, manage things that aren't as kind of known. Think about it from like a payment gateway that doesn't necessarily have an API.
Hmm.
Use artificial intelligence to help us reconcile payment gateways in a more automated fashion that we currently do today. Think like an authorized.net or random payment gateway. It's authorized.net is not like really random, but
Right. Yeah.
but down the line, there's tons of payment gateways out there. If we can use artificial intelligence and create probabilistic workflows to help reconcile those types of gateways where the information isn't necessarily as known, that can be really exciting. Because in totality, you have this like completely automated solution, A2X, the product as is today, automating the deterministic workflow, and then potentially A2X AI, who knows, automating kind of the less known, more probabilistic workflows like payment gateways.
And I think something that might be cool in the future also is you see a lot of companies when they first start out, they'll get a Shopify or a Stripe loan. And you know how every day it takes a percentage of whatever revenue they brought in. So you're on another side reconciling and doing that manually. It would be really cool in the future if that was something that kind of came together to help see what percentage of my income did it take out, and that gets added to the journal entry and balances the loan.
100%, and that's what we're thinking about every
Yeah.
day. Like I didn't talk about those as like integrations that we were working on in the future, but A2X AI is definitely something that we're actively
Hmm.
working on, and I can't provide tons of details on it today. But we demoed kind of a very early iteration, an alpha at Camp A2X,
Yeah.
which was like really well received, and kind of starting to bleed into the use cases that you're talking about.
Well, in AI, I mean, it's here, it's the buzzword. Everybody wants it in their solutions. It's kind of funny sometimes. I get to a point where I just kind of desensitize. I'm like, okay, yep, it's AI, it's there. We'll figure out how to use it. But
Well, the fun part is like I was like in the way that I communicated it, right? Like A2X core stays the
it's
same
the
because
same.
it's
Yeah.
yes, deterministic. It's about this like additional layer,
Mhm.
right? To help automate the reconciliation of like the long tail of things
Yeah.
that it's really hard to apply deterministic workflow to. And I think that's actually really interesting because we talk about all these different AI use cases. That's a really functional, helpful use case if we can figure it out and if we can unlock it, right? Because it helps automate more of the reconciliation process. And it also helps us collectively, a software vendor as well as an accounting and bookkeeping partner, deliver more accurate books and
Yeah.
deliver more timely financials. The more that we can automate on kind of like the manual drudgery of reconciliation, the more we can deliver accurate and timely
Yeah.
financials.
Yeah, I 100% agree on that because that's always been the thing. You look back and, hey, how long did it take you to close the books? They're like 20 days. And you're like, awesome. Well, the next month's already, gonna start pretty soon and we don't know what we should do yet. And like how far we've come from that. And people are able to close now, usually within, a week to 15, maybe to the 15th of the month. But how much more accurate will that come in? And then just helping close that, to your point. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, same, 100%.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, and all things A2X. And I would say for anybody listening, what is the best way to maybe contact you if they have questions about the solution, or maybe even just wanting to know a little bit more? Hey, can we see a demo or whatnot?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So you could visit a2xaccounting.com. We do have chat right on the website where you can interact with a real human. You could also reach out to me directly, and I can point you in the right direction. And that applies to if you're an e-commerce business owner or if you're an accountant or bookkeeper. And if you're an accountant or bookkeeper, we do also have a pretty great partner program, because that kind of supports the statement that I made earlier that we believe that every e-commerce business should be connected to an accountant or bookkeeper. Our partner program does everything in its power to enable that connection. So if you're curious about what that means and what some of the benefits are, please do reach out to me directly. I'd be more than happy to chat with you about it, set you up with a demo, so on and so forth.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time today. And thank you, everybody, for your questions. If you have other ones that roll in, put them in there and we'll respond to them as we see them come through. But thanks again.
I appreciate you inviting me to this, and I love that you do this on a regular basis, and amplifying some of the technologies available to sellers out there. So thanks, Christy.
Yeah. And I would add to that is there's so much software out there. It's good to know of, hey, here's recommendations because this is what I use, and I'm able to share it out to everybody and they can look more into it. And I think that's, as things are ever growing and so much, it gets noisy out there and you don't know quite how to shift through and find the best solutions.
Yeah, totally simpatico.